morning YouTube! How is everybody? I'm back from Norway. I actually got back last week and this is the first time that Pinky's been outside since I got home, and we're on our way now to Barnstormer BMW where I'm dropping her off for her 18,000 mile service. So immediately before we left we went for our 12,000 mile service, and now we've done 5,500 miles plus a little bit beforehand, and we are due for the next one. This is actually the big valve service, which is kind of scary, but I just paid for the BMW service plan which covers that, so we're not going to have any nasty surprises, which is a huge relief because I spent all of my money in Norway and I have nothing left. So the purpose of today's video is to tell you guys why I have no money left, and I'm going to go into all of the little details about how much the trip cost. I've tried to memorize it because obviously I'm riding, I do not have a list in front of me, but I also thought I haven't really done a riding video for a while, so it's nice to get the GoPro out. I didn't use the GoPro while I was in Norway because I thought I really wanted to get regular content out. And the easiest way to do that was to just film on my phone, throw it all in iMovie and upload it every single day. I thought if I film stuff on the GoPro, I'm going to come home after a 3-week trip with hours and hours of footage that I'm just not going to want to go through. So even though I had the GoPro with me, I didn't use it. I also didn't really want the distraction of having to try and kind of come up with stuff to say while riding in a different country, and the stresses that go along with that. I actually didn't do too bad. I think there was one occasion where I ended up on the wrong side of the road because I wasn't really paying attention. I was thinking about something else and I got stuck on the wrong side of the road and 3 cars had to go past me, and it was really embarrassing. I was mortified. I think I was quite stressed out, so I just started crying. Anyway, I went to Norway with a budget for 3 weeks of £3,000. And that budget kind of included a lot of the stuff that I had to buy before I left because I was missing some kit. Some stuff I was able to borrow. I did have to buy sleeping bags, some cooking stuff. I had to buy some good waterproof motorcycle boots. So there were a few things that I had to buy beforehand that kind of cut into that budget. And I think, aside from a couple of repairs that I had to have done to the bike, so if you've been watching the videos you'll know that I had ongoing problems with my chain, which I'll talk about in a bit anyway. I forgot where I was going with that sentence. Yeah, other than a couple of emergency motorcycle related expenses, I did manage to stay within my budget, and the total amount of money that I spent while I was over there, including border crossings, was about, and I say about because I did count it up through my mobile banking app, but I didn't use the calculator very well and I pressed some buttons wrong and I made some assumptions. Anyway, £2,200 for 3 weeks. Obviously I was given 4 weeks to do the trip in the end, but my original plan and my original ferry crossing was for 3 weeks, and in the end I was able to do the whole trip and get home in 3 weeks, so I didn't have to rebook my return ferry crossing to the UK, which saved me a bit of money. The ferry crossing that I took was New Haven to Dieppe. It was a return crossing. It was with DFDS Seaways, and it was a Saturday night. No, it was a Friday night and a Saturday night crossing. It was 4 hours each way, and that I think was about £80. So it was £80 to get to France. And then the boat that I took to get to Norway was from Hirtshals, and I'm definitely saying that wrong. It's the top of Denmark. And on the way out I went with Fjordline. That was £50 or €50, about the same. And then on the way back I couldn't get Fjordline because I left the booking too late, but I used Colour Line, and it has the exact same ports on either side. It's 3 hours rather than 4 hours, but that also was, I think that was a bit more expensive. That was €59. So you're spending £180-ish to do your 2 main border crossings, and then all of the little ones in the middle because you have to ride through France. And I went through France, Belgium, Holland, Germany and into Denmark, and the border crossings there are super easy. You just ride or drive through them. I think they do randomly check some people just to make sure that they're not smuggling lots and lots of tobacco or anything weird. but for me, you go straight through them. You don't even notice half the time. There's a little blue sign. So that's your main boat crossings, and that's probably the only thing that you really want to do in advance for this trip. I didn't realise how easy it is to just go places and not plan it, and for the majority of the trip I didn't plan anything, except obviously the rough direction that I wanted to go in on the way up was up, and on the way back down again it was down. So 180 quid to cross your borders. In France you have to pay motorway tolls. It's like on the M6 in the UK, the M6 toll, you just have a booth every now and again, and it's about £3 for each one. So I think I paid about £10 in tolls on a motorcycle to get through France, and then after that you don't have to pay tolls anymore. At least I don't think you do. In Norway there are no road tolls for motorcyclists, but there are for cars and heavy goods vehicles and anything with like more than 2 wheels basically. And that is all done online, so I think if you are going with a car, just be aware of that, sign yourself up to whatever toll system they have and make sure you pay it. But on a motorcycle, apparently you don't need to do anything, or at least so far I haven't needed to do anything. And then the other transport costs are ferries. In Norway there's lots and lots of ferries. They run a little bit like buses, so you don't need to book them in advance. You kind of keep going along the road until it stops, and suddenly you're at the end of the road and there's a boat there. You get on the boat, and then make sure you get on the right boat, because some of the boats go to different places, but the signs are really easy to understand and obvious. You would struggle to get on the wrong boat, and if you did, I mean, that's part of the adventure. But anyway, a man will come up to you and he will tell you how much the ferry is going to be on his little phone thing, and then you tap your card and away you go. I set up Ferry Pay in the end because I did about 15 ferry crossings while in Norway, just little ones, and it's so much nicer to just get on the boat, get off your bike and go sit down, so you don't want to have to wait around for a man to come over with a phone. So you set up Ferry Pay, you put your card details in, you put your registration number in, it does it automatically, and at the end of the day they tell you how much it's going to cost. Little ferries in Norway could cost between £3 and £10. I think they're a lot more expensive for cars and caravans and things, but for motorcycles, super cheap. It is just like taking a bus, and they're really pleasant as well. You can just go sit down in a little cafe, get yourself a drink. They're not too rocky. You don't tie your bike down on those ones, so if it does get rocky you've got to go sit with your bike, but they're like an hour tops, and then you ride straight off again. So for transport, for things like ferries, border crossings and tolls, I think I spent like £250 on that for 3 weeks to get all the way up and all the way back down again. It really wasn't very expensive. I thought it was going to be a lot worse, and also it's very easy to do. So that's that. We did 5,500 miles in total for those 3 weeks, and I spent about £800 in petrol. In Norway they don't have manned petrol stations like they do in England. You pay on your card and then you fill up, so it's like going to one of the Sainsbury's self-service petrol station things. And I think that the cost of fuel in Norway is kind of similar to, remember a couple of years ago where we had that petrol crisis where petrol was like £2 or more for a litre, and it was disgusting and everyone was really poor. It's basically that expensive, so it sucks, but we've learned how to deal with that. And not money related, but there's petrol stations everywhere, so you don't need to worry about it. I was kind of getting excited about having to buy little fuel canisters and carry petrol around with me, but I didn't need to. I think there was like one occasion where I was starting to get panicky that I was going to run out of petrol, and that was actually in Denmark. So Norway's good. Near the top of Norway, definitely plan your petrol stops a little bit, because just in the kind of the islands at the top there aren't very many, and they're in the towns, they're not on the side of the road, so you just need to make sure that you do get them, or you will be stuck unless you have a bike that has good fuel range. I think he does 170-ish miles to a tank, so I would stop when it said I had 150 kilometers left in the tank. Would start out with about 300, get to 150, start looking for a petrol station. Didn't have any problems. The accommodation, it was bloody fantastic. This was something that I was worried about because I like to have things planned, and I had to just let go of that. I used a mixture of campsites and Airbnb, and on one occasion I used booking.com, and I regret it. So I had my first night in Germany booked. Before I went out, I booked a nice Airbnb a distance away from my first ferry crossing that I thought I could get. And then after that, I just did it on the day. So particularly when I was in Norway, I would wake up in the morning, I would ride around for 4 or 5 hours. I'd let the time go to like 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and just see what kind of vibes the day was giving. Like how, get out the road, how many more miles did I think I could do, how awkward was the road, how many ferries were there, and then I kind of decide how realistically how far further I could get, and I would book an Airbnb or a campsite in that area. And campsites in September are a little bit iffy, a lot of them are closed, so you'd have to phone ahead, just phone them, see if they're open. If they're open, you can turn up. And campsites were £20 to £25 each for a night, which seems expensive for a little tent and motorbike, but let me tell you, campsites in Norway are far superior to campsites in England, where in England you'd be lucky if you have a clean toilet cubicle in most of them. Campsites in Norway, a lot of them had like little common rooms. We'll get on that in a second. A lot of them had like little common rooms, so they had like a little living room with couches, and you could sit and you could charge your phone, and they'd be heated, and they'd have really nice showers and toilet facilities. They'd have kitchens that you can use, laundries, like laundry rooms, everything. You might as well not even bother with a tent. At one point I thought like, I put my tent up, but I will just sleep on this sofa. I didn't, but I wanted to. And they all had Wi-Fi, and it was amazing, it was great. So £25, and then you just sleep in your tent. And they're really easy to find. There's campsites just dotted along the main roads. There's campsites in all of the towns and villages. They're absolutely everywhere. But yeah, in September, call ahead. But apparently in the summer you can just kind of show up, and because you're on a motorcycle, there's going to be room. It's mostly caravans. There weren't many occasions where I saw anyone else with a tent. It was just me. So that's campsites. And then Airbnb, I didn't spend more than £50 on an Airbnb night, and there's loads of them, so you can just book them. On one occasion I got a little bit stuck, and I booked an Airbnb and turned up 20 minutes later. Like, that was fantastic and a huge relief. So I spent, I think, something like £700 to £800 total on accommodation. I did stay in a few more Airbnbs that I wanted to, but the weather did kind of turn on me, and once your tent's wet, it's just not fun anymore. So I used a fair few Airbnbs. Anyway, so £700, £800-ish on accommodation for 3 weeks, which is decent. Food is expensive. And it's kind of funny when you're in a different country, because the currency is a little bit weird and you're not used to it. Like in euros, you just kind of look at euro in the same way that you look at a pound. Yes, there's a little bit of difference, but not really. Whereas Norwegians use Norwegian kroners. I kept calling them NOK. It's Norwegian kroners. I don't know if anyone actually says NOK, so I'm going to stop saying that. And it's, I think £1 is like 100 kroners, or like 130 kroners probably, something like that. So the easiest way to think of it is to just divide everything by 10, and then you've got a little bit more than the pound's worth. So that's fairly easy, but then you don't think of it like that. Hello. You would divide it by 10 and think it's less than £10, so it's cheap, but it isn't. So if you go to a shop and you buy a bit of bread and a bit of cheese and like a bar of chocolate and a packet of crisps, so that's what I bought on one of my shopping trips, and it came to like £20, but I didn't think of that. I was like, 200 kroners, oh, that's less than 1,000, so that's nice and cheap. Lovely. It isn't cheap. So the way that I was doing food, apart from the few occasions where I thought I should try and make a meal for myself and bought bread, I would buy ready-made stuff in petrol stations. So I basically spent 3 weeks living on sandwiches from petrol stations, like baguettes and things. And then once the veganism went out the window entirely, I started eating hot dogs because they were hot and they were nice, and they had cheese in the middle. A hot dog, so they have these little signs like our value hot dog is 49 kroners, so you're like, getting, that's less than 100. That's still like £4. I mean, is £4 for a hot dog good? I don't know. I haven't bought a hot dog anywhere for a really long time. I mean, that was a basic hot dog. The ones that I was getting had like bacon wrapped around them, so they were like 59, 69. So, But then if it's the only thing that you're really eating, then it's fine. If you're spending £5 a day on a hot dog and then £5 a day later on in the afternoon on a baguette, you're spending £10 a day on food. You're not having the best time in the world, but at least you're fed and you're not hungry. I did lose quite a bit of weight, actually. So yeah, you can live on the road and you can spend £15 to £20 a day on, I don't know, 2 sandwiches and your bottle of drink. Also, orangeade, like orange soda, Fanta in Norway, if you can get the stuff called Solo, it's better, but even Norwegian Fanta is amazing. I don't like Fanta, really. I have it very rarely because it doesn't taste like orange, but in Norway it tastes like orange and it's incredible. So I definitely recommend you get yourself a bottle of Solo. It's delicious. Anyway, so yeah, your budget day is £15 to £20 a day on food. If you do want to stop for a meal, which I did a few times, they are really into pizza. There's pizza everywhere. And you can spend £20 to £25 on a pizza in a restaurant or at a campsite cafe or whatever. I think I had a couple of sit-down meals where I actually went into a restaurant properly and I sat down and I had food brought out to me, like proper food. It was expensive. Again, it's £20 or more for a meal in a sit-down restaurant. So if you're on a budget, just stick to petrol stations, and if it's worth it or you really particularly want to eat somewhere, then go for it. So I think I spent like £400 or £500 in total on food for 3 weeks. I can't decide if that's okay or not. I suppose like my monthly shop is like £100, so yeah, it's not good, is it? I'm also not adding this up in my head, so when I'm saying like 400 or 500, it's ish. I can't remember the exact figures. As long as it adds up to 2.2k, that's it, that's right, I think. The little emergency repairs, so about £400 in total. Obviously I had that problem with my chain and that was my fault, that was entirely my fault, and it was very embarrassing, but I knew that the chain kind of was getting a bit iffy, it needed replacing, it was old, it was coming up 15,000 miles on the bike when I actually finally changed it. And I didn't have anything with me to tighten the chain, because I just didn't think that I would have to, which is very stupid of me. So what I had to do in the end was just be aware of it, and when I was in a town, just see if I can find a garage, someone that had a bike parked outside a garage, and then get it dealt with. So yeah, the bike survived through that, and then got down to Trondheim where they said that they could put a new chain on at Trondheim BMW, and that was really expensive, and I'm going to compare quotes when I get to Barnstormers because maybe it's about right, but it was £380 to fit a new chain. So we will see. It's probably, I mean, it's an endurance chain, I think they're about £260 anyway, so it's probably about right, and it was very short notice. But I know that I'm going to get comments going, oh my god, that's so expensive. So that's for £400, and then the bike started making horrendous noises from the brakes, like really, really bad. Like not even like squeaking like you would expect a bike to squeak. It sounded like something was actually dying under there, but not like dying as in like the first stages of dying, like final gasping breaths of a dying animal coming from my brakes. So I went to the next BMW dealership down, which was in Stavanger, and they were very, very lovely. They took the bike in, they had a look at the brakes, they also adjusted my chain again, just gave the bike a nice once over, which I was really grateful for because I just don't know. And they said that basically your brakes are just filthy and there might be some issues with the discs, potentially something with the forks as well, but the bike is safe and it'll get you home, so don't worry about it. So that is what I did. And actually, after 100 miles on the Autobahn back in Germany, the sound seemed to have stopped. I don't trust it, because it was doing it, but at the moment it's quite happy. I'm trying to think what else I bought. Oh, I spent a shitload of money on magnets as well. So I hope that answers a lot of your questions. I'm sure I've probably forgotten something really obvious and important. If I have, please leave a comment and I will do my best to answer it. I will talk more about kind of things that I've learned, some product reviews, things that you guys are interested in. I'll do that in a separate video because I am almost at Barnstormers now, and I'm looking forward to just seeing Pinky get looked after. I mean, this is disgusting. She hasn't been cleaned yet either. I had to spend like £400 to get my stupid car fixed, and that's eaten into the money that I was going to spend getting her cleaned, so I'll have to deal with that later. Yeah, so I'll do another video with thoughts and feelings and things like that. I think I have now kind of recovered a little bit more. I got home, I spent 2 days dealing with emails and laundry and things, and then I drove to see my dad in Somerset, and I spent 3 days there, and that was kind of taken over by the fact that my car needed a lot of work done to it. And then I came back, and I think I'm kind of starting to feel a little bit normal again. Like, it was a bit weird coming back. You go from every single day, you get up, you pack your bike up, you hit the road, and then you spend like 8 hours riding, and then you come back and you wake up in the morning, you're just like, oh, I don't know what to do with my life. So yeah, I'm getting back into it, but I go back to work on Monday as well, so oh, that's going to be good. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it's been informative. Let me know if you have any questions. I will gladly answer them for you, and I will catch up with you guys again soon. Goodbye.